There are moments in life that shatter not just your reality, but the very essence of your faith. Moments when the ground beneath your feet gives way, not in a sudden dramatic collapse, but in a slow, agonizing crumble. A silence falls, thicker than any noise, and you are left standing in the ruins of something you believed was unshakable. This is the moment of monstrous betrayal, not just a simple act of deception, but a deliberate, soul-crushing wound inflicted by a hand you trusted. It is the moment when a person whom you held in the sacred space of your heart reveals a darkness so profound it makes everyone around you sick, a sickness of the spirit, a deep-seated ache that questions the very nature of human connection. But I want you to lean in closely now and listen, because what I am about to share with you is not a story of tragedy, but one of divine, whispered truth, a truth that only the chosen ones can truly understand. When this monstrous betrayal occurs, and it feels as though the universe itself is reeling from the shock, there is a hidden sacred purpose at play. It is in this exact moment, in the center of the storm, that God turns his gaze upon you, not with pity, but with a profound, quiet admiration. He is watching how you take it. He is observing the stillness of your spirit, even as your world is in chaos. He is seeing the strength of your character, the resilience of a soul that has been meticulously prepared for this very test. You see, a chosen one is not anointed to walk a path of ease. Your journey is not one of sunlit meadows and gentle breezes alone. It is a path forged in fire, a spirit refined in the crucible of immense pressure. The betrayals you face are not random acts of cruelty. They are divine opportunities. They are markers on your spiritual map, placed there by a loving God who knows the full measure of your strength. This particular betrayal, this one that made everyone sick, was given to you because you were the only one who could truly handle it. You were chosen to demonstrate a level of grace and forgiveness that is not of this world. You were meant to take this blow not as a victim, but as a divine warrior, a vessel of God's own boundless composure. This is the quiet power that you hold, a power that does not rage or retaliate, but stands tall in the face of injustice, holding a light of truth that cannot be extinguished. This act of betrayal, this wound so deep, is designed to serve as a spiritual catalyst. It is meant to burn away any final attachments to what is false, to sever ties to those who are not meant to walk with you on your sacred journey. It is a harsh cleansing, yes, but a necessary one, a process that leaves you raw and exposed, but ultimately free to receive a new, greater blessing. This is the moment your spiritual armor is tested, not for a simple battle, but for a war waged in the unseen realms. You are being given an opportunity to ascend, to transcend the human need for vengeance and validation, and to embrace a higher calling, a path of divine solitude and strength that no one can ever take from you. This is what it means to take it like a god. Now let's explore the 7 truths that reveal why this monstrous betrayal was a test you were destined to pass. Point 1, the test of solitude. When this betrayal happened, you found yourself alone. At first, that aloneness might have felt like abandonment, like the air had been sucked out of the room, leaving nothing but silence. But that silence was not empty, it was sacred. It was not a punishment, but an initiation, not an exile, but a retreat. What you thought was isolation was, in truth, consecration. The solitude became the very space where God pulled you away from the distractions, the chatter, and the noise of those who could never see your worth. This was not the absence of people, it was the presence of God making himself louder than the opinions of men. In history and scripture, we see this pattern repeatedly. Moses spent 40 years in the desert before returning to free his people. Joseph was betrayed by his own brothers and thrown into a pit before rising to a position of power in Egypt. Even Jesus himself withdrew to the wilderness for 40 days before stepping fully into his mission. Each story shows us the same truth. Separation often comes before elevation. Betrayal, as painful as it feels, is frequently the divine setup for transformation. God allows the breaking away not to destroy you, but to make sure that when you rise with him at the center. Psychologists even note that solitude can sharpen clarity. When you are removed from the constant hum of other people's opinions, your brain is forced to rely on its own reasoning, intuition, and reflection. Spiritually, this creates an even deeper effect. In solitude, the chatter of the world dies down and the whisper of God becomes unmistakable. Betrayal often pushes you into that solitude prematurely, but in hindsight, it becomes the most powerful gift. That betrayal emptied the room of those who never belonged, making space for the one who was always meant to be there. And here's the captivating twist. Sometimes God allows people to walk away, not because you weren't enough for them, but because they weren't enough for the assignment on your life. The betrayal was the removal of weak links before the weight of your calling could crush them, or worse, compromise you. It is often in betrayal that masks are ripped off and truths come into light. That's why, though it hurt, it also clarified. It stripped away illusions, forcing you to lean on the strength of the only one who never betrays. Think about it. Diamonds are formed under intense pressure, gold is refined in fire, and great warriors are trained in solitude. You are no different. Your betrayal was the pressure, the fire, and the training ground. It separated you from the crowd so your voice could align with God's voice. And when that alignment happened, your power shifted. You no longer needed validation from others because you had confirmation from heaven. This is what makes the chosen ones so unique. The solitude birthed resilience, the betrayal birthed vision. While others saw you as broken, God saw you as becoming. What felt like rejection was in fact divine redirection. In those lonely nights when you thought no one heard your cries, heaven was listening. Every tear was counted, every prayer recorded, every ache acknowledged. That silence was not silence at all. It was God's way of tuning your spirit to hear the frequency of destiny. So when betrayal left you alone, you weren't abandoned, you were being refined. You weren't discarded, you were being positioned. And as you sat in that solitude, you may not have realized it, but God was strengthening your spirit, stretching your patience, and solidifying your faith. The solitude was not just about losing people, it was about finding yourself, your true God-anchored self. And now, because of that season, you walk with a power that can't be faked, a wisdom that can't be taught in classrooms, and a resilience that only comes from having survived the breaking. In truth, betrayal didn't destroy you, it built you. Solitude didn't bury you, it awakened you. And now, chosen one, the very thing that was designed to break you, has prepared you to stand taller, walk stronger, and shine brighter than ever before. Point 2. The lesson of detachment. There comes a moment in every chosen one's journey when life delivers a blow that feels like it has ripped the ground out from under your feet. For some, it's the loss of a loved one, a betrayal from someone they trusted, or the collapse of a life they spent years building. This event is rarely gentle. It comes like a storm, shaking your foundations and forcing you to release a person, a dream, or a situation you clung to for stability. And as painful as it is, this very loss serves as one of the greatest teachers you will ever encounter. You begin to understand that your sense of security was never meant to be tethered to people, possessions, or circumstances, but rather to the unshakable connection you have with the divine. When you lose something you thought you could never live without, you are confronted with the fragility of earthly attachments. Relationships, no matter how beautiful, can change. Money, no matter how abundant, can vanish. Status, no matter how powerful, can fade overnight. Psychologists often talk about attachment theory, describing how human beings instinctively look for safety and security in bonds with others. But spiritual awakening pulls back the curtain and shows you that while human love and connection are valuable, they can never replace the eternal love that flows from Source itself. What felt like a devastating ending begins to reveal itself as liberation, an invitation to build your foundation on something that cannot be shaken by time, betrayal, or death. Think of it like standing on shifting sand. As long as you lean on external circumstances, your footing will always be unstable. The waves of life will come, and each tide will erode what you thought was solid. But when life forced you to let go, it wasn't cruelty, it was mercy. It was the divine hand guiding you toward bedrock, urging you to place your trust in eternal truth instead of temporary illusions. The scriptures of many faiths echo this lesson. In the Bible, Matthew 7:24 speaks of the wise man building his house upon the rock, not the sand. In Buddhism, impermanence is seen as the great teacher, showing us that clinging to what is temporary is the root of suffering. Across traditions, the message is the same. Lasting peace is not found in what changes, but in what endures. You may have noticed that after this loss, a strange calm eventually settled within you. At first, the pain was unbearable, the silence deafening. But then, something extraordinary began to happen. You realized you were still standing. You were still breathing, still alive, still capable of moving forward. This recognition is powerful because it shows you that the essence of who you are is not dependent on any external attachment. You are sustained by something greater, something invisible yet unbreakable, the divine current that flows through you. In fact, neuroscientific studies on resilience reveal that people who anchor themselves in spiritual practices, whether prayer, meditation, or deep trust in a higher power, recover more quickly and grow stronger after loss. Science is only now catching up to what the chosen ones have always known. True strength is rooted in spirit, not circumstance. The beauty of this lesson is that it transforms your outlook forever. Once you have seen the illusion of earthly security, you can never be fooled again. You begin to live with a quiet confidence, knowing that even if the world strips away everything you hold dear, the core of your being remains intact. You carry yourself differently. You love people deeply, but without the chains of desperation. You engage with life passionately, but without the fear of losing yourself in it. This is what sets chosen ones apart. You are no longer controlled by what others give or take from you. Your anchor is in eternity. And here is the greatest irony. Once you no longer cling, life begins to flow more freely toward you. Relationships become more authentic because you are not holding on from fear, but from love. Opportunities come with less anxiety because your identity is not tied to success or failure. You finally understand that nothing external can define your worth. You have touched eternal truth, and once you taste it, no illusion can ever satisfy you again. So while that painful event may have felt like the end of your world, it was in fact the beginning of your true life. It stripped away the illusions and delivered you to the solid ground of divine connection, and from this place, chosen one, you rise, not weaker, not broken, but unshakable. Point 3, the deepening of empathy. You felt the sickness, the pain of betrayal. That deep cut into your soul wasn't just a random misfortune, it was a spiritual initiation. Betrayal is one of the oldest human wounds. Even the stories of ancient civilizations, from Greek tragedies to biblical accounts, are filled with people who were wronged by those they trusted most. But here's the paradox. Betrayal, while agonizing, is often the experience that reshapes you into someone stronger, wiser, and infinitely more compassionate. When someone breaks your trust, it forces you to see the hidden fractures of human nature. You realize that not everyone operates from loyalty or love, and while that truth stings, it also awakens you to the deeper realities of the human spirit. Psychologists have long studied betrayal trauma, noting how it mirrors the pain of physical injury. The brain registers emotional betrayal in the same regions activated by physical pain, but unlike a bruise that fades, betrayal digs deeper, shaping your very worldview. And yet there's an incredible twist. Those who endure it often come out more empathetic than before. You've walked through the fire, and now your heart recognizes the flames in others. You know what it's like to sit in silence with that invisible ache. And because of that, you have become a safe space for others. Compassion, true compassion, isn't born in comfort, it's born in suffering. Think of how a diamond is formed. It's just carbon until it's pressed, crushed, and subjected to unimaginable heat. Only then does it reveal its brilliance. Betrayal did that to you. The sickness, the sleepless nights, the hollow questions of why me? All of that was the pressure molding you into something rare. And what makes it so unique is that not everyone survives betrayal without bitterness. Many get stuck in cycles of anger and distrust. But you, chosen one, have chosen differently. You've allowed pain to soften you rather than harden you. That's what sets you apart. Spiritual traditions echo this truth. In Buddhism, suffering is not seen as meaningless punishment, but as a doorway to enlightenment. In Christianity, Christ's betrayal by Judas wasn't the end of the story, but the catalyst for redemption. And in ancient Stoic philosophy, betrayal was just another test of resilience, a chance to master the self by mastering one's reaction to pain. History shows us over and over that betrayal, though cruel, has a strange way of propelling people toward their highest calling. When you meet others who are walking through the valley of betrayal, you don't simply pity them, you understand them. Your empathy is not intellectual, it's lived. You can say, I know what that feels like, and mean it. That shared recognition is powerful because it bridges the isolation that betrayal creates. People who are betrayed often feel like no one can grasp the depth of their suffering. But when they meet someone like you, Someone who has survived and even thrived beyond it, hope flickers in them again. So while betrayal once felt like it stripped you of everything, in truth it clothed you with wisdom. It taught you where real strength lies, not in being invulnerable, but in being open, even after being broken. It taught you that pain does not have the final word. Healing does. And now, whether you realize it or not, you carry a light that guides others through the same darkness. That is the silent power of your journey. You didn't just endure betrayal, you transformed it into a gift of compassion, resilience, and truth that others desperately need. And perhaps that's the ultimate lesson. Betrayal wasn't meant to destroy you. It was meant to prepare you. You are no longer the same person who first felt that sting. You are wiser, stronger, and more capable of carrying the weight of others who will one day lean on your strength. That's the beauty hidden inside the pain, the making of a soul that cannot just survive the storms, but help others through them too. Point 4, the unveiling of divine power. By choosing not to retaliate, chosen one, you revealed a strength that most of the world will never understand. In a society that glorifies clapbacks, revenge plots, and getting even, your silence was louder than any shout, your restraint more piercing than any sword. The world teaches that real power is found in domination, in showing your enemies that you can match their fire with even greater flames. Yet you stood still, calm as a mountain in the storm, proving that true power is not in force but in grace. That moment became a quiet sermon to anyone watching, a living scripture that said, "I will not let the darkness in you create darkness in me." And that, chosen one, is divine. Think about it. History is filled with leaders who conquered through force, but their kingdoms crumbled. On the other hand, those who carried themselves with patience, forgiveness, and vision, people like Nelson Mandela, Martin Luther King Jr., or even biblical figures like Joseph and Jesus, carved legacies that still outshine the swords of their enemies. Mandela was imprisoned for 27 years, yet when he walked free, he did not return the bitterness he had received. He transformed his pain into a pathway for reconciliation. That is what refusing to retaliate does. It interrupts the endless cycle of revenge and creates a ripple effect of healing. Psychologists even confirm this. Studies show that retaliation rarely provides real satisfaction. It only deepens wounds and prolongs conflict. Forgiveness and restraint, on the other hand, lead to lower stress, improved health, and deeper inner peace. It's not about letting people off the hook. It's about refusing to let their venom poison your soul. Every time you choose not to strike back, you rewire your spirit to align more closely with divine strength. You break free from the grip of pride and ego, stepping instead into the higher calling of peace. That is not weakness. It's spiritual warfare fought on a higher battlefield. And let's be real, it takes more strength to hold back than to lash out. Anyone can throw a punch, but not everyone can stand tall after being hit and still choose compassion. Even the Bible says in Proverbs 16:32, "Better a patient person than a warrior, one with self-control than one who takes a city." The world may celebrate the conqueror who takes cities, but heaven honors the one who conquers self. When you refused to retaliate, you didn't just avoid another fight, you won a battle inside yourself. You showed that your worth doesn't depend on proving a point, but on walking in purpose. What many people fail to see is that your restraint is not passive, it is transformative. By absorbing the blow, you became living proof that God's love is unshakable. You turned what could have been another ugly chapter of conflict into a testimony that speaks louder than revenge ever could. This is why Jesus said, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God." When you refused to mirror your enemy's behavior, you reflected heaven instead. You mirrored the mercy God shows to us every single day when He withholds judgment we deserve and covers us with grace instead. Chosen one, your silence was not empty. It was filled with divine weight. Your refusal to retaliate was not weakness. It was strength hidden in plain sight. It was you declaring to the universe, "I am not bound by the same chains that hold others captive." And though the world may never fully grasp this power, those with spiritual eyes see it clearly. Grace is the greatest weapon. Because while retaliation can wound, only grace can heal. While force can silence, only mercy can transform. And when you embody that truth, you don't just walk through the world, you elevate it. Point 5. The sharpening of discernment. After betrayal, something extraordinary often takes root within a chosen one. It may feel like a devastating collapse at first, a fracture so deep that it shakes the foundation of your trust in humanity. Yet hidden within that fracture is a transformation, a refining process that turns vulnerability into power. The pain of deception is not just emotional, it reprograms the way your spirit and mind perceive the world. What most people dismiss as paranoia or overthinking is in truth the sharpening of spiritual senses. It's as if betrayal forges a new lens, a kind of soul night vision, allowing you to detect the unseen motives behind smiles, the subtle shifts in tone, the invisible but powerful energy vibrations people give off. Science has tried to explain this phenomenon. Psychologists point to micro-expressions, those fleeting facial cues that last less than a second but reveal what someone is truly feeling. Others highlight how the brain's amygdala and hippocampus respond to betrayal by becoming hypervigilant, scanning for signs of threat. But spiritually, chosen ones experience this as a divine upgrade. Your spirit develops a radar discerning truth from illusion long before words confirm it, where once you relied on appearances, you now rely on energy. You feel intent, not just hear speech. This gift is not accidental, it is a divine safeguard protecting you from walking into the same snares again. Ancient traditions have long spoken of the aura, an energetic field surrounding each person that reflects their inner state. Before betrayal, you might have brushed off the unease around someone or excused the heaviness you felt in their presence. But now, your spiritual senses are calibrated. You can walk into a room and know instantly who is genuine and who is cloaked in deceit. This isn't suspicion, it's protection. Like an immune system that strengthens after being attacked, your spirit builds antibodies against deception. And here's the twist. This awakening doesn't only protect you from harm, it also deepens your empathy. Because you've tasted betrayal, you see pain in others with fresh eyes. You notice the loneliness behind a forced smile, the exhaustion behind polite small talk, the heartbreak hiding behind humor. This paradox is powerful. Betrayal both guards your heart and expands it. You develop the wisdom to know when compassion is needed and when boundaries are essential. That balance, discernment paired with empathy, is what sets chosen ones apart. History affirms this truth. Many prophets, sages, and leaders were betrayed before stepping into their calling. Their sharpened clarity allowed them to survive environments thick with deception. They weren't paranoid, they were perceptive. And now you stand in that same lineage. Betrayal has given you a crown of foresight, not to predict the future in detail, but to see the truth of the present so clearly that tomorrow becomes less uncertain. So, chosen one, while betrayal once felt like the breaking of your spirit, it was in fact the awakening of your gift. You carry a divine shield, a wisdom forged in fire. From this point on, deception may try to approach, but rarely will it succeed, for your soul now sees what eyes cannot. Betrayal has not left you broken. It has left you armored in light. Point 6. The call to deeper purpose. The pain you endured was never wasted. It was shaping you, chiseling away the layers of who you thought you were so that the true essence of your calling could emerge. When we speak of testimony, it's not just a story of what you've been through, it's the undeniable evidence that you have survived what should have broken you. Science even shows that resilience is forged through hardship. The human brain rewires itself after trauma, building new neural pathways that make us stronger, wiser, and more adaptable. Researchers call this post-traumatic growth, a concept that describes how people can experience positive psychological change after enduring adversity. In fact, studies from institutions like the American Psychological Association reveal that many who suffer loss, hardship, or deep struggle often develop a heightened sense of purpose, stronger relationships, and a greater appreciation for life. This means your suffering carries literal weight. It has restructured both your mind and your spirit to endure what others cannot. Pain, therefore, is not a meaningless detour, it's part of the architecture of resilience, sculpting a stronger foundation for your destiny. Chosen one, your scars are not blemishes. They are living scriptures written on your soul, reminders that you have walked through fire and yet remain unburned. Think about it. Gold is refined only when it passes through fire, hot enough to melt away impurities. Diamonds are formed under pressure so immense they would crush ordinary substances. And oak trees grow their strongest roots only after enduring storms that try to uproot them. Nature itself testifies that greatness is born through struggle. You are no different. The very pain you thought was meant to destroy you was, in fact, the training ground for your anointing. It carved out in you an authenticity that cannot be faked and a depth that cannot be copied. In a world where many try to project strength without substance, your scars prove you've lived through storms and carried lessons that no classroom could ever teach. And here's the divine twist. People may listen to smooth words, but they feel truth. When you speak from a place of lived experience, your words carry a resonance that no book, no lecture, and no second-hand wisdom can match. This is why your trials matter. They have equipped you with authority. Your pain has given you a voice that cannot be ignored because it doesn't just speak, it vibrates with evidence. You embody encouragement because you are the living, breathing proof that survival is possible. What once felt like a punishment is now revealed as preparation. This paradox is echoed in countless spiritual traditions and even psychological studies. The greatest leaders, healers, and visionaries are almost always those who have endured hardship and emerged with wisdom. Your pain, then, is not wasted. It is recycled by grace into purpose. Just as seeds must crack open in the soil before they can grow, you too had to break in order to bloom into who you were always meant to be. Consider this: when you walk into a room, people may not know your story, but they sense the weight of it. They feel the quiet strength that comes only from someone who has walked through shadows and found light on the other side. It's why those who have endured hardship often become magnets for others in need. Suffering sharpens your empathy and tunes your heart to the frequency of human struggle. Neuroscience even supports this. Trauma survivors often develop heightened emotional intelligence and a deeper capacity for compassion because their brain adapts to prioritize human connection as a source of healing. This means your scars not only mark where you've been, but also guide you in helping others find their way out. Your testimony becomes a lantern, casting light for those who still stumble in the dark. So the truth is this: your pain has always been more than pain. It has been a teacher, a sculptor, and even a silent ally pushing you into your destiny. Every sleepless night, every tear shed, and every season of feeling lost was weaving resilience into your very DNA. You carry within you the evidence of survival, the authority of endurance, and the brilliance of transformation. What should have buried you became the soil for your growth. What should have silenced you gave power to your voice, and what you once thought was breaking you was actually making you into someone unshakable. That is why your story matters. It is not just your past, it is someone else's roadmap to hope. Your scars are sermons, your survival is proof, and your testimony is not only your victory, it is the light others need to believe they can rise too. Point 7. The path to spiritual maturity. To take a betrayal with the quiet dignity of a chosen one is not weakness, nor is it passivity. It is power in its purest form. When others wrong you, the natural human reaction is anger, revenge, or the need to clear your name. But the chosen one understands something deeper. Betrayal is never the end of the story. It is a tool in God's divine classroom. History and scripture alike remind us that the greatest souls faced their sharpest growth through the sting of betrayal. Joseph was betrayed by his own brothers and sold into slavery, yet that very betrayal positioned him to save nations from famine. Even Jesus, betrayed with a kiss, turned that moment into the greatest victory humanity has ever known. These are not just stories. They are reminders that betrayal, painful as it is, often carries within it the seed of transformation. When you carry betrayal with quiet dignity, you are declaring to the world that your spirit cannot be broken by human treachery. You're saying, my peace is not for sale, my faith cannot be shaken, and my purpose cannot be stolen. This does not mean the betrayal didn't hurt. It means you chose not to let it define you. In fact, psychologists confirm that those who practice forgiveness and acceptance after betrayal experience less stress, stronger mental health, and even greater resilience. The chosen one knows this instinctively because they live with their eyes fixed on the bigger picture, not the temporary storm. So if you have been betrayed, wear your scars not as chains but as crowns. The betrayal was never meant to destroy you. It was meant to reveal you. And when you walk through it with grace, dignity, and unwavering faith, you don't just survive, you rise, unshakable, undeniable, and unmovable in the purpose God has placed on your life. So as you reflect on this monstrous betrayal that made everyone sick, remember this: you took it like a god. With a spirit of calm and an unwavering heart, you walked through the fire and emerged not broken but refined. This pain was not a punishment, but a sacred part of your divine path. You are strong, you are chosen, and you are in this very moment a living testament to the grace of God. Find peace in this truth and continue to walk in your quiet, anointed path.